NBA trade deadline day is here, and Daryl Morey has hopped into the waters. While it may not be the blockbuster deal that most of us were hoping for, Reggie Jackson is on the move, not for the Butler that we've been talking about, but Jared Butler coming to Philadelphia here. So I want to break down what he brings to the Sixers team, why this might be a move setting up for some more movement down the line, and really why I think Daryl Morey kind of nailed this one. So to lay out the details of the trade overall, Reggie Jackson and a future first-round pick, a 2026 first-round pick, being sent to the Washington Wizards in exchange for Jared Butler and 4 second-round picks. And to kind of give the full details here, these are not these fake second-round picks. That it will be a 2027, the most favorable of Golden State and Phoenix, both those teams having a fairly likely chance of bottoming out there. In 2028, the Golden State second-round pick, again, there is very much a world where that is closer to the low 30s than being a mid-tier pick. Then in 2030, the most favorable of Phoenix and Portland. In 2023, in 2030, the Washington second-round pick, and of course Jared Butler coming as well. So beef to throw to you right off the rip here. What was your immediate reaction to this deal?
I liked it because one of the things I was talking about just the other day, it was if the Sixers are going to make a trade, I thought it was going to be smaller moves like we've seen with KJ Martin, Caleb Martin, and then this. But one thing I kind of highlighted was looking to add a potential guard in the backcourt that's young. I
Yeah.
mean, this is a team right now behind Tyrese Maxey. You're trotting out Reggie Jackson and Kyle Lowry. It doesn't exactly scream athleticism and youth. Jared Butler gives you some good defensive ability. Has been up and down as a shooter throughout his time in the NBA. But if you look back at it during his time at Baylor, and I know it's 3-4 years ago now, but he was one of the more dynamic college guards probably of the last decade. A real good on-ball defender. Can decently shoot the ball. But if it means Reggie Jackson's not on the court anymore, that's okay with me.
Yeah, I do think there's an angle of this of a little bit Daryl Morey taking the decision out of Nick Nurse's hands that I've personally spoken out quite a bit that I hate the Kyle Lowry and Reggie Jackson lineups when together. They're two guys that are not quite good enough individually, so you stack them on the floor together and hope that's enough. And to me, that's kind of a waste of, I guess, a roster construction standpoint there. Jared Butler is interesting, man. This is a guy that's kind of been surprising to me that it hasn't clicked in the league the way I anticipated it would coming out of Baylor. He is a guy that I can see very clearly growing into like one of those pure floor general type of players. And by the way, he led up the Sixers not too long ago, just a month ago, going for a career high 26 points, 7 3-pointers made against the Sixers here. He is on a two-way contract, which I thought was interesting here. That does mean to officially clear room for him, per the Philly Voices Adam Aronson, that the Sixers will waive Pete Nance to make room for Jared Butler. I don't think Nance is a guy that there was any sort of this long-term hope for. Kind of shocked that he stuck around for a second term there. He was released and brought back one time already, but I do have significantly higher hope for what Jared Butler can be from an NBA standpoint. That this guy, he is in the fourth year of his two-way contract, or his fourth year being on that, meaning that is the last season for it. He will be a restricted free agent at the conclusion of the season. Same thing that they got with Quentin Grimes as being a restricted free agent there. There are a couple little like flexibility and cap intricacies that you can do with a restricted free agent as far as going above the total and doing some, cap gymnastics there. So I do think that is a part of this deal as well. But I think the logic from Daryl Morey's standpoint is I'm not just doing trades that can help this team in the short term. This is stuff that we're looking beyond. So if there is not this belief that Jeff Doughton can step up and be this guard moving forward, which I think is a fair takeaway if that's the way you look at it, Jared Butler is a guy I have higher hopes for. So do you agree with that assessment there? And what kind of positionally or role-wise do you see him growing into?
Yeah, obviously the backcourt going forward, it certainly looks like it's going to be Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, and it's good, I think, to add another third kind of youthful guard in there into that mix. Sure, it's nice to have a veteran in there as well, but like you said, it's not just a move for the short term, but the long term as well. And it's risk-free kind of thing in this scenario. I think you're basically swapping him for Reggie Jackson, and then you're going out and acquiring 4 second round picks as well, which makes me feel a little bit better about the 2 second round picks that they had to give up in the KJ Martin trade. I think when you look at that scenario, Daryl probably knew a move like this was coming down the pike. I know some people were upset that they had to give up a couple assets along with KJ and basically got nothing in return. But in this scenario, you're getting back, essentially your 2 second round picks you already gave up and acquiring another two. So I like the move in the short term here. And as I said, I think he'll be kind of in the mix there with Kyle Lowry for some backcourt minutes going forward this year. And you see what he has. And this offseason, you have a chance to match whether you want to bring him back or not. If you think he could be kind of that third guard in the backcourt going forward. no real criticism from me on this trade. I would give it a pretty solid move. No risk really, and potential long-term reward as a backup guard piece.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this move overall. And I'll say, as far as the second round pick conversations, we're seeing them mean more than really ever before in NBA history for a lot of the financial implications of that. When you break down like what the contract means from a draft position, first round is structured and assigned that based on what the order and where the selection number is, that's what your dollar value is. That is not the case for second round picks. None of those come with guaranteed contracts, which does give you an advantage to use. And Ricky Council here, who is an undrafted guy initially, that's a guy that they were able to sign to a team favorable contract because it did not come with that. And for those guys specifically, they're obviously seeking this long-term security as well. So it is kind of a give and take that works both ways. It's been referred to as the Hinkie special in years past. Shake Milton is a guy that they locked up on a similar style deal, far more value on the court than it would indicate in the dollar sign. And you kind of get a couple bites at the apple by adding to this. So beyond just getting the additional picks, having 4 of them instead of just the one, and I will note once again, the Sixers had 2 first-round picks in that 2026 draft, so they will not be completely without a first-round pick as of now, at least. Wouldn't shock me if there's more wheeling and dealing, but you do get more approaches to the plate and a little bit more flexibility that you can do there. Now, as far as Butler, the player, the numbers don't say a ton for this year. 6.9 points per game, 1.3 rebounds, 2.6 assists, has shot 36.6% from three, 48.3% from the field, still 24 years old, but when you do look at his per 36 numbers, you do see what the appeal is, and obviously these can get skewed to an extent, but in these per 36 stats, shout out to Trill, who's been all over the Jared Butler hype train for a while now. 21.8 points per game, 9.8 assists, 5 rebounders, 2.5 steals with 45, 32, and 76 splits. It does surprise me that this guy has not latched onto a full-time roster spot. It also would not shock me if he's upgraded to that by the end of the year, if they want to get ahead of this and sort of make that. But there is no pressure on that either. So you kind of get to try out, see what this guy can do. And I do think he will be a part of the organization moving forward. To me, this is not just a Band-Aid trade. This is something that is looked at moving forward. And I do have confidence that he can grow into that level of floor general. As I mentioned early on, coming out of Baylor, this was very clearly a guy that I was like, I see him being an NBA level point guard. I see the way that he can grow into this lane. It has not happened yet, but I do think that it was loaded with young talent down in Washington, a lot of young
Yeah.
guys down there. This is a bit of a clearer opportunity for him to earn his spot on this team.
Yeah, that's one of the points I wanted to make as well. When you look at the Wizards the past few years, they've invested a lot into young players in the draft. They're obviously going to get the benefit of the doubt, the longer leash, the ability to play some more than a two-way guy like Jared Butler. So I think this is a little bit more of a concrete kind of landing spot for him. As we said, the Sixers team has dealt with injuries time and time again this year. Obviously, Jared McCain out for the season. Now you're sending off Reggie Jackson. Eric Gordon has been in and out of the lineup. Kyle Lowry's been in and out of the lineup. So there's going to be minutes for Jared Butler, whether it's 12 to 15 minutes a game, some nights maybe 20 to 25 minutes a game. He's certainly going to have, I think, more of an opportunity. And for, a potential winning team, if you want to put it at that, not one of the kind of cellar dwellers of the league, but a chance to really make a real impact on a team that's looking to make a playoff push over the second half of the season. So back to the point we were kind of talking about at the beginning, where no real risk in this, and I think potential reward, and you pick up a couple draft assets along the way. So a good move here, and I wouldn't be surprised as well. We're recording this about 10:45 in the morning. Wouldn't be surprised by 3 if some of those draft picks that we acquired go out and look to acquire maybe even another player down the line, because we still have 2 open roster spots. We,
Yep.
we both think Justin Edwards will get converted to one of them. Jared Butler obviously could get converted to one, but you still have one to look to fill, whether the Sixers want to do the free agent market or use some of these draft picks to potentially go out and get, another wing, another shooter. I think could be in the cards.
And beyond 1-2 have to fill, because there will begin to be penalties for not having a full roster, and they're currently at 13, so there are 2 slots that will need to be filled. I'm in total agreement that I think there's one, basically Justin Edwards penciled in right next to it, and deservingly so, the way that he played. And even with Paul George returning last night, we're still seeing Edwards stick in the starting lineup, which I think is really telling there and showing the belief from Nick Nurse. But there is still some roster movement still to go as you round out that. Will be interesting if they try and give Jared Butler an opportunity at this. My guess would probably be he sticks on that 2-way deal, but gets a legitimate on-court chance for the remainder of the season. but this is a nice swing that you did take. In the worst case scenario, if this does not work out whatsoever, still adding a couple draft picks in the process and move things around. So I really like this trade from Daryl Morey. Once again, to reflect on exactly what it is here, that it was Reggie Jackson and a first-round pick in exchange for Jared Butler and 4 second-rounders. Shout out to Reggie Jackson, man, a guy who's been a favorite of mine for a long time, but it just did not quite work out this year, and not his fault. Like, this was been issues deeper rooted than what Reggie Jackson could bring to this team. Played pretty solid. I think he had 11 points last night against the Heat, bring a little spark off the bench there. So he'll be a nice veteran presence for this Wizards team. Do hope he latches on somewhere else if he ends up a buyout guy or something like that. But ultimately, I think this is a slam dunk deal. I think purely from like a satisfied standpoint, it may not move the needle to the extent that we're hoping for, but from like a satisfied standpoint, this is my favorite trade the Sixers have made so far.
Yeah, not a trade that obviously you're doing backflips for like the Lakers acquiring Luca, but still just like a solid trade. If the Sixers, if you wanted them to make a move, a minimal one that's not going to hurt the team or really impact the team, just do something. Just like that, it's like that meme, like do something,
Yeah.
Daryl. Where are you? This was a perfect kind of scenario just to do that.
Yeah, interesting. So we will see how things go from here, but overall, give me an A. I'll give Daryl Morey an A for this one. So we'll see how the rest of the picture changes. Still some roster moving to go down, but let us know what you guys think on this trade overall. Make sure you're dropping those comments below. As always, make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you have not already. Drop a like on this video. Me and Ryan will be back breaking down whatever happens for the remainder of the deadline. Peace.